Hello! I just felt like talking about tropes this weekend, so why not? I'm gonna start with the negative tropes just because I don't want this video to come across as overly negative or to end on a negative note. It just might feel better for those watching it and me. Now, you might not agree with these, so keep in mind that these are tropes that I don't like, and some of the shows that I'm criticizing I actually do like. I think they're good. I'm just criticizing certain aspects of them. I don't really know what to call this trope, except it's really lazy writing, but it involves feminism or attempted feminism. Have you ever seen a show where we introduce the main heroine, and in order to make her look good, we make all the male characters into idiots? Even if every male character isn't a straight-up idiot, they're generally portrayed as weaker and kind of incompetent in comparison to the heroine. I'm using Carmen San Diego as an example because even though I think it is a pretty decent show, at least at the beginning I really felt this. I thought Inspector Chase Deveneaux was super disappointing and made to look like a total buffoon, and yet being the one who is ordered to pursue Carmen San Diego. Like, why would you pick this guy, first of all? He's very arrogant and somewhat dismissive, even disrespectful to his female partner. He seems to think he doesn't need any feedback when he clearly does. I think the idea with this trope is to sort of right the wrongs done in the past, almost like payback in a way, like, hey, you remember how you used to make women look dumb? Well, how about we do the opposite? And like, you see, men aren't always that strong. In fact, they can be stupid and dumb, and like, of course they can. Anyone can be like that, and it may even be that a lot of men in power are like this. But I think what this actually does is make Carmen San Diego's escapes look like nothing remarkable. Like, I don't think it would be terribly hard to escape from this guy. What would actually be remarkable is if Carmen is able to hold her own and escape someone who is actually excellent and very competent. I could talk about these two, but I'm going to use them in a different examples, so as much as I like Kim Possible, I think it suffers from a similar issue. Ron is made to look incompetent, and I get that it's kind of sort of in his name and it's a joke. It's not necessarily super mean-spirited, but most of the characters in the show see him as useless, and like, why do you even have this sidekick? The sad thing is that it does feel like Kim doesn't actually need him, like she could do all this stuff on her own. Healthy independence is a good thing, but I disagree with this sort of I don't need anyone mentality because I'm a woman. I think that is ridiculous. We all need people's help. Thankfully, even though the rest of the characters might dismiss this guy, Kim does respect him for the most part, and I love that, which is more than I can say for this bit. I should say that the writers really did improve on Chase Deveneaux later on. His saving grace is that he realizes his own ignorance and very humbly accepts the consequences of this. He also really comes to respect and care for his partner, who also respects and cares for him, by the way. I'm calling this one the hot girl or guy trope. It's hard to explain, but I'll try. Have you ever watched a show where there's like one guy or one girl in particular that every other character cannot shut up about how hot they are? Like, you would think Kate Beckett is the only beautiful woman who exists in Castle. Because when she's on the screen and there are other characters on the screen who aren't main characters, there's a 9 out of 10 chance that some guy is going to make a dirty comment. Now, I actually like Kate Beckett, or at least I like her when the writers decide to write her consistently. But at best, it's cringy, and at worst, it feels like the writers themselves have the hots for her. Conventional attractiveness is not a bad thing. It's not even a bad thing for characters to say so. What drives me nuts is that, why is Kate the only one ever getting attention? Something similar could probably be said of the main guy character in many shoujo anime. Like, everyone is obsessed with him and everyone just likes him because he's hot. He seems to have little to no other merits. Now, just because that's often how our world works, that doesn't mean we need to keep framing it in a positive way on shows. Except for this guy, he's perfect and I take no criticism. This is probably my least favorite trope out of all the ones I'm talking about, and I'm calling it lack of communication equals conflict. Just stop doing this. If the primary conflict in your show is something that could be resolved by talking for 5 minutes, then don't do it! Write it out! Abort! And while you're at it, you better have a better reason for characters keeping secrets than just, oh, it's not the right time. I think what it actually is less of a character flaw and more just cowardly writing. like a refusal to change the status quo out of fear of what to do next. I don't know. But from what I remember of this show, they consistently do not reveal their identities, and Ladybug consistently refuses to trust Cat Noir, even though she sometimes says she does. I'm not saying the way he always handles it is good or mature, but he is right to be angry that he's constantly left in the dark. He is right to be angry that he is not allowed to know stuff that would help him help her for no fucking reason. If the show improves on this at all, I'm not aware of it, since I refuse to watch past season 3. Well, actually, I lied. I guess I did watch that one special where they were in New York, and the only thing remarkable about that, I thought, was that Cat Noir accidentally kills someone, which is honestly just another criticism on my part because of how mean the show is to Cat Noir. And I heard that in later seasons, Ladybug reveals her identity and is working together as the Guardian with Alia, and even Luca finds out who she is. Like, bullshit. Now, this might be obvious, but I think the reason why this trope doesn't work or why it's so bad, other than it being cowardly, is it's because it's a really cheap and quick way to produce some drama. You've probably seen plenty of examples of a much hated trope called The Liar Revealed. Think Bug's Life, Chicken Run, Over the Hedge, even Klaus, etc. If the characters really stopped to think or stopped to talk about it, this scene wouldn't be happening. This is artificial drama. To the few Canadians out there who have watched Dragon Booster, do you remember that shit their dad pulled? Oh my word. He pretended to be dead, and all the while his sons were grieving for him, and even though he was still there in disguise, like, if I didn't know this was just bad writing, I would say that that is cruel. And his reason was just they needed to learn to believe in themselves. Oh my lord, that is so bad that it should just be a joke, but I think it's just really lazy writing. Now, with the exception of Castle, I know that most of these shows I talked about, or all of them I guess, are for kids or families or all ages. So that means I should cut them some slack, right? Wrong. If you're writing for kids, then you're writing for a really impressionable crowd, and you're also writing for the next generation. So no, you don't get to slack off. You don't get a free pass. Do better. Write good stuff. Now, hallelujah, it's time for positive tropes. This first one I'm calling character subversions. Have you ever watched a show that was full of characters who were basically common stereotypes, but the more you got to know each and every one of them, you realized they were all three-dimensional with traits that you wouldn't normally associate with those stereotypes? Welcome to the weird, exciting, and slightly depressing world of Detention Air. Yes, you can tell I'm Canadian. It's a mystery thriller, so each and every character almost, other than the main character, is a potential suspect. I think the show actively uses stereotypes to confuse you and the other characters. Like, I don't know man, you look like the kind of kid who would do this, and then you find out, oh my gosh, that actually doesn't make any sense. The more information we're presented, the more we have to view each character in a different lens. Unless you're really good at the game this show plays, if you think you know someone, then you're in trouble. Even going beyond the kids at the school, we've got all these adults who are either involved in the school or even outside of the school, like potential villain, potential villain, potential villain. But even if they are bad people or doing illegal things, are they really the ones behind everything, or are they just being used? Anyways, you might not like the animation style, but this show is surprisingly good at what it does, and it's a crime that it got cancelled when it did. The next trope I'm calling unlikely friends. Now, this can be manifested in enemies to lovers, but I'm talking more like two people who are very different and have very good reason to hate each other, but along the way they learn to put aside their differences or find something in common, like a common goal, and they end up working really well together. Now, there are lots of really good examples of this, but I really like Shiro and Michiru from Brand New Animal. They have every reason to not get along. Shiro hates humans, and Michiru used to be a human. Shiro is guarded and world-weary, and Michiru is hopeful and innocent. The beauty of innocence is something that is very captivating, I think, which is why I think that is usually what wins over these types of characters. And for each character, when they have to work together for whatever reason, is forced to see things from a very different viewpoint and to question their own methods. It's very cool and touching to see these characters humble themselves and protect each other and undergo quite a change by the end. Now I'm calling this one symbolic or metaphoric characters. I've talked a lot about Christ figures already, so let's expand it a bit. A metaphoric or symbolic character doesn't have to represent a real person. It doesn't have to be religious or political. Like, it can be any of those things, but it also can be simpler or even more on the nose. Like, maybe you want to talk about sin without preaching a sermon. Well, in Full Metal Alchemist, we make each of the 7 deadly sins into its own character. I envy the writers to be able to utilize their creativity so much. Like, what would envy, greed, lust, pride, etc. look like as people? What would their personalities be like? And a symbolic character could also be just something a lot more down to earth and simple, like how Balto and Inuyasha could be seen as symbols for being biracial, or even just how hard it is to fit into society when they put you into a box, when they only associate you with one trait or another. Symbolic characters can be aspirational, they can be sobering, or they can just be plain real. When you caricaturize a concept or a group, a virtue or a sin, it almost becomes more real to us in our hearts. This is a crucial way that we as humans learn. I hope you got something out of this. I know I got something out of making it. If any of your favorites or least favorites showed up here, you can let me know in the comments if you want. You can also always let me know if you have anything to add. I love you and hope you have a great week. Bye.